Hello, good evening. I'm Reverend Greg Kehn from Lilydale, New York. I'm presently in Florida, and we're down here for the winter. I'm a registered medium in Lilydale, been up there 48 years as a registered medium, and we're down here for the winter time, so it'll be a lot of fun to be here and not be in the snow. So, welcome to everybody. Let me do a little opening prayer. Dear Father God, in all love and librarians, as we walk our pathway of life, we may accept and understand all obstructions before us, may deal with them in the highest and best way. May we be guided by the hand, the sight, and the understanding. Amen. Well, welcome everyone to this evening. We had some emails sent in, requests and questions. So we have a few questions here, and I'm going to have Leslie read the questions off, and we'll start with that tonight. And really interesting questions, and I think we can have a lot of fun with that as to what we really come up with as answers. So I'm going to let Leslie start with the question.
When I expand my aura and climb higher and higher to mesh and connect with my spirit, I am always concerned about whether negative energy will enter my body or my auric field and cause negative thoughts, illness, or disease. Can you please comment on how you self protect or if you need self protection to keep lower energies from entering your space?
Well, it's really very simple. As you're setting intent with your prayer, and you're looking at this as a meditative level, and you're asking Spirit to help you. Now, whether you're doing this in a meditative manner or you're actually stepping out of the body astrally, it's really your self protection is there in your prayer. I always start with a prayer. When I read for someone, I start with a prayer. I do healing, I do a prayer. I mean, to me, it's setting the intent in a prayerful manner to bring that balance and bring that harmony. And it's something that's going to make a difference that everyone will be tapping into. And as we do that, we're automatically protected because as we set forth that intent in our mind, we're then surrounding ourselves in light. And you can say it verbally, you can say it mentally, that you surround and fill yourself with light and nothing but good can come to you. And that way, we're asking Spirit to guide us in that manner. I believe very much that when we're working with Spirit and we have a pure intent and we've also set the intent, it's something that we're automatically protected. I've had a lot of people say to me, they'll be fearful and they're afraid of drawing negative entities. Well, if we're looking at things in a really positive, healing manner, we're not going to be drawing anything negative at all. It's not going to be coming through in that form. And it's something that we're needing to be aware of. Where are we in our thought and where are we in our emotions that would allow ourselves to feel afraid or feel negative? And we're needing to recognize that we can create some negativity and open some doors to things that we don't want. And as long as we're projecting that thought and energy in the right way, it's really no problem at all. We're not going to have any difficulty. I've had it happen where I've had people say, well, I've had some negative energies around me or would come to me. I've worked with a number of people that felt that they were not possessed, but manipulated by some negative energies. And if we allow ourselves to believe that and we allow ourselves to be fearful, what we fear we manifest. And we need to step back enough and realize that we don't need to be manifesting any of these energies and thoughts. There's no need at all for that. So that'd be hopefully answering that question. And we have a next question.
This one's a little similar. How do you honor being a spirit in a body and maintain your ability to move aside and let spirit merge with you?
I find working with mediumship, I step aside when I'm working with someone in a reading. I step aside in healing. There's many areas that I find myself that you have to think of it in this form. We're the vehicle, or let's say a conduit, where the conduit is there and we open ourselves to that conduit energy and allow it to flow through us and allow spirit to bring us the guidance and the message and the healing that we're really allowing to happen. We're getting out of the way. I refer to it in class at times. I'll say to people, get out of the way and quit thinking about it. Again, you're setting intent as to what purpose you're there for. If you're there working with healing, laying on of hands, or even absent healing, we need to step aside. And in message work, for example, I find that many people try to be the relay, and they try to relay what they're getting, meaning Spirit will give it to them. They're thinking it over, they're debating it. And as they're debating it, it really becomes a confusion. And they're then relaying their own conscious thought, their own conscious belief, emotional belief system, which has nothing to do with giving a message. We need to be out of the way and allow Spirit to come through in a way that has clarity, that we're giving it the way we get it. Now, yes, there's some people said, well, I'll just use a random example here. I had one lady say to me, you know, I was giving her a message and I said, your father came through and said to me, I have to say it the way he said it. And he said it very, very bluntly. And I said it the way he said it. And she sat there and cried for a moment. And she looked at me and she goes, if you wouldn't have done that in that form, I would have never believed it was him. So we have to realize, I've had people say to me, well, I wouldn't want to hurt their feelings, or I wouldn't want to upset them, or I wouldn't, like at times something would come through and people consider it swearing or something. I know one gentleman that came through, and he was very blunt, sort of a trucker attitude, and everyone knew that, and that's the way he was his whole life. So when you look at that energy, if he'd have come through as the meek and the mild and the soft, nobody would believe it's him. And he came through and said to me, he said, you tell them the way I'm telling you. And it came through wonderfully, and they responded to it very well. So it's something we're needing to realize. We're needing to step aside and allow it to come through in the way that it should be. Not that we're doing things in a gruff manner or harmful manner, hurtful manner to anyone, but we're needing to realize that the clarity of what they're giving us has meaning. How we consciously change wording can really muck things up and make a mess out of giving a message, and then people really don't believe it, especially when you have people that say, for example, may be there for the first time. They've not had a reading before. I had a gentleman come in that was Catholic, been a Catholic all his life. And, he found out later in life that his father was a priest. And that was supposedly a no-no, but his father was a priest. And the father came through and explained these things. And the son, and he was in his 80s, he said to me, he said, if you wouldn't have told me those certain things that he said, because they went to the church and he went to church unknowing that that was his father. So it was really an interesting reading to work with, because here's this gentleman that would be, in a sense, sort of sworn to secrecy and not let anyone know anything. And here's the boy growing up, and the father's getting to see him, but the father's the priest. So it was really interesting to work with. And he brought through exact statements that his father made to him when he was a child. So if we look at things like that and realize, if we're standing in the middle of it and we're thinking about it or relaying things, we're not giving clarity. And we need to be very clear on what we're really getting and make sure we're stepping aside enough consciously that we're not rerouting it by rewording it. I've seen some people give very, very valid messages, but they reworded what they gave, and the person was then questioning, was that the spirit loved one or not? Because here they are having all these questions back and forth, and it wasn't said in the manner that needed to be said. So just be aware of that when you're working with the mediumship, to be able to have that clarity. It's not a handing it off. Spirit gives it to us and we give it to them. We need to get stepping back a bit and set that intent that it's a flow through us. I see it happen quite often at Lloydale, at Inspiration, Stump Force, Temple, the auditorium. I've watched a number of people work, and whether they were visitors or whether registered mediums, there's times they relay everything to such a degree that it actually takes it away from the real sound and solid, meaningful message. I hope that answers that. We have another question.
Yes. If you were to interview spirit and ask them what qualities make it easiest for them to relay their messages, what would their answers be?
The calmness and sincerity of realizing that we're a vessel of energy and spirit's a vessel of energy. The only difference is we're in the body. And if we're looking at it in that form and we set that intent of energy of healing and we're sending out that thought that we're being truly calm. People talk about meditation. I think meditation is wonderful, and I think that is really a big part of what we need to be in tune to have the calmness so spirit can step in. The calmer we are, and the more at peace we are in an internal manner, the more the flow of energy flows through us. And we're needing to recognize that it just is an open flow and it's a comfortable healing energy. And we're needing to look at our own thoughts about it. If the calmer we are, the better it works. The more we can step aside, the better it works. And whether we're doing this in a meditative manner, because some people refer to it in a meditative manner, or I would just say to some people, for myself, if I was to sit and meditate a long period of time, I'd probably be sleeping. And it's something that I always look at it as the purity of here's the purpose we're here, here's the focus we're in, here's the intent we set. And then if we can have that intent also include the idea that we're consciously stepping aside and realizing we become a third party watching it flow through us instead of standing in the middle handing it off. And it works really well. And I've watched people where they at times will be so wound up emotionally. I've had different people I'd have in circle where we would sit in meditation. And I have the meditation short. I don't do real long ones. But I've had some people come in and it's like they stayed wound up. They stayed in the conscious mind. They kept focusing in the conscious manner and expecting spirit to come through. Spirit will absolutely avoid us if we're not in harmony and if we're not in a calmness where they can come through. They'll step aside and not come through us, they'll come through someone else. I've watched messages come to someone, and in a circle, I refer to it as bridging. I watch a bridge of energy occur between the people. And I watch that energy occurring where one is picking it up. Here's the other person to be the recipient of the message. And you start to see the bridge of energy building. And then they start thinking about things, and I watch the energy dissipate. As soon as we start thinking about it in a thought process consciously, that automatically dissipates. And it's something that if we can just get it and give it, and I try to get people to understand that when you get it, give it. Don't sit back and think about it or debate about it or what words to use, because then we lose the essence of the message. I've seen it literally happen where spirit would step in and work with someone to give a message, and they start thinking it over and debating it, and they dissect it consciously, and spirit steps away from them and goes to someone else that's more receptive. And that then they would come through. I've watched it at Inspiration Stump. I watched one medium try to give a message to someone, and it wasn't that spirit wasn't there, and it wasn't that the recipient wasn't open to it, but the person getting the message was starting to put in their own wording and starting to put in, what they're thinking, the way they would say it. And immediately spirit stepped aside, and the next medium up, the person came through to that same person, gave an exact message, and it was perfect. So we need to realize, there's many channels when you have a circumstance like that. Now, on a private level, when you're sitting and reading for someone individually, or you're just picking things up for someone, try to set that intent of we're keeping separate enough that we're witnessing what's coming through. but we're not busy changing it. And I think that's so important in all these aspects. And that it goes for healing, that goes for readings, that goes for whatever you're doing in a sense of working with spirit. And remember, on a conscious mind, we sometimes have the attitude of the outcome we want or the outcome we're thinking about. And we at times will become forceful in the conscious level and want to make it be the way we want it to be or make it be the outcome we want it to be. There's many times I've had it happen in my life, time after time, that I would have a thought about what I desire or want or accomplish, and spirit would then say, okay, a little left, a little right, and they would aim me a little differently, and it worked perfectly. But if we're trying to do it bullheadedly and we're trying to force it to be the outcome we want, sometimes it just doesn't work because it wasn't meant to be. And I see people at times that one lady I've had it happen many times, but I'll just use this as an example. I had one lady ask me the same question at least 6, 7 times in a little bit different layout, a little different way that she brought it up, but she was asking the same question. And after the 6th time, I said to her on the 7th time, I said, listen, I said, you're going to have the same answer for the same question, no matter how you word it. This is what Spirit is saying, period. And she was very disturbed at the idea that she couldn't maneuver it to get it to the point she wanted it to be and have the answer she wanted. And she wanted to guarantee it. This is what has to be. Are you sure this is what has to be? And I find that we can be, and whether we're conscious of it or not conscious of it, somewhat manipulative in the sense of what we desire to have as an outcome. So we need to think about that clarity and recognize that we have to step back enough and accept what's there. Remember, we're here to learn, grow, and progress. And it's not a circumstance of being forceful in a sense of this is what I want and how I want it and when I want it, because not always is it going to work that way. If we're in line with the harmony of what God's giving us and Spirit's helping us with, we'll have it, it'll be there. But if we're not in line with that, we need to step back and realize we're here to learn, grow, and progress and not look at it as something that we're, in a sense, giving orders. I had a little girl say to me one time, she goes, we can't tell God what to do. And we had quite a conversation, and I think she was 3 years old. And she said to me, she says, we can't tell God what to do because God will help us and guide us, but God steps back and lets us bang our head at times. And it was just amazing to me that a 3-year-old would come up with that. So we're needing to realize that, yes, we're in an adult body, but not necessarily are we always focused in a harmonious manner working with spirit. I've had people that are newcomers to spiritualism or mediumship, and I find it interesting. They have this mode of focus of I can make it happen. And I understand the thought of building a belief system to bring harmony to what you're wanting to accomplish. But I also look at it as there's things that's taking us away from what we're here for. And that's not going to happen. We're going to be dragged back and brought back to center as to what we're here for and what we're needing to learn. We're not here to escape our lessons. We're here to move through them. And we can make lessons very simple. They can be like a speed bump in life, or they can be a mountain. And it's our choice in a sense of where are we allowing ourselves to work with that in that harmonious manner. Was that all the questions, Leslie?
We got more.
Okay.
What is the energy, if any, generated by a thought shared by many? Can a prayer for peace, for example, actually have a positive effect? If the thought is a belief which is false, can that negatively impact others?
It can negatively impact others if the belief is false, and it's something that many people look at. Look at the news. For example, and you hear them talking on the news about things, and they don't have the right information, and they're completely off track on what they're projecting. And I find that many times, if people jump in on what someone else says, and they automatically take it as the gospel. This is the truth, and this is the honesty. And we really get in trouble doing that, because if they're sending out a negative energy and a manipulative energy, and we're then jumping in support of that negative and manipulative energy, it's going to hit us too. And karmically, we have to deal with those energies. Now, if we look at the purity of what we're doing in a prayerful level, I always send out the thought in a circumstance that people have said to me, well, this is what's happening. This is what they said. This is what they did. This is what they're doing. And I always send out the thought in a healing manner to say, okay, I want to bring the highest and best to the circumstance that's occurring. And in a prayerful manner, put that energy in that and around that. And that way, it's not a circumstance of you looking at it karmically that here you are supporting something negative or something really wrong. You're supporting something positively, and whatever the outcome needs to be, it will be. And it's not a circumstance of forcing our will in a sense of saying, this is the outcome I want, or this is the outcome I believe to be. And really, some people really do become very forceful. For example, I had a priest say to me one time, he found it very interesting. I was standing beside him at a deathbed of a lady passing, and he asked if I would do the prayer. And I did the prayer, and I said, asking for healing here or hereafter. And I was not ordering God to say this person is going to be healed and they're going to be here and be healthy and everything's fine. I put out the energy of, I'm sending out the thought and prayer of healing here or hereafter, meaning if God is desiring them and helping them to be here in the physical body yet, that's wonderful. But it's something that if they're going to be healed on the other side of life, that's wonderful too. And I don't stand in the way of that. I don't stand in judgment of that. I just support the energy of God's wishes and guidance. And that soul can be blessed with the healing. And again, here or hereafter. And we had quite a conversation after that. And he said to me, he said, I've never heard anyone pray in that manner. And I said, well, I look at it as a lot of people pray in a way of demanding, and a lot of people pray in a manner of control. And it's like almost saying they're dictating what the outcome will be. And I don't claim to know the outcome. I claim to know what Spirit gives me. And what Spirit gives me, I would share. And that's something there that we're needing to look at and realize we can have that harmony and bring that calmness in. And we're here as an instrument of energy. We're here as an instrument of healing. And to dictate the end result is not for us to do. And I see a lot of people that in many ways attempt to do that. And I believe karmically, we can set ourselves up for some pretty rough stuff, because I've seen people, I'm sure everyone's heard this old adage of, watch what you pray for, you may get it. And I've had that happen many times with people I've looked at, and that's what they wanted and how they wanted it. My grandmother used to say to me, she said, watch what you pray for. Do you want the carriage house or do you want the mansion? And are you praying for the right things in the right way? And whether it's for yourself or for others, to allow the circumstance to be there, that you put that prayer out there and ask for the highest and the best for whoever it's concerning, whether it pertains to you or pertains to anyone else, to do the highest and the best.
How can we de-energize negative thoughts?
Well, the simplest way of saying it is we don't allow it in the first place. But on another level, I look at people that think very negatively, and I'll put it in a simple form. There's some people that think very negatively or narcissistically, and they're very manipulative, and they're going to try to just, no matter what, force their will on what they want and how they want it. And I believe that if they're putting that kind of energy into things, that's the kind of energy they're getting back. And they may on the earth plane appear like they're getting away with things to some extent, but in reality they're not. And I've watched it occur many times where the disharmony that some people were presenting, but they were trying to present it as harmony. They were trying to present it that they're absolutely right in what they're doing. I feel an energy with that I find myself stepping back. God bless them, surround them in light, and they're headed for a big fall. What they think is ahead of them that's very solid, they walk right off the edge of the cliff. And I've watched that happen many times, and you just surround them with light and bless them. And to recognize also that in our own energy, there's an inner level, and I'm sure each one of you have had this happen, where you've had a feeling about something, even though someone was telling you, everything to the left. You're feeling the left is not right. We need to go to the right, and the right would be right. And we sometimes will go along with things to a certain point, and then we finally realize in ourselves there's a little voice inside or a little warning inside saying, you can't go that way. That is not the guidance and the answer. I know many people that'll say to me, well, I had a gut feeling, that whatever they told me wasn't correct. We need to follow the gut feeling. I believe that just, for example, the pandemic we've had, God couldn't get our attention and make us wake up and realize that we need to take care of things and what's really important. And by redefining now, and I think every one of us is redefining to some extent, where we really look at things, and it's what's meaningful. Where are we investing our time, energy, love, and emotions? Where are we putting our investments spiritually? And not just the conscious world stuff, but I mean, spiritually, where are we at? And that's the developmental energy that I believe we're all in and we're needing to be aware of. And I believe every one of us, not only the people I see on the screen right now, but I mean, I feel the world. Anyone that is opening up in a spiritual manner, in a prayerful manner, an honesty manner, we're having more spirit helping us. They're working with us. We're going to receive more of a feeling and guidance in many ways, and it's going to continue to grow. It'll continue to expand. And I find that not anyone I've read for hasn't had reality coming through. I had a day a short time ago where I had a few people that every one of them was incredibly stressed and incredibly upset, but they were trying to force things to occur in a way that it wasn't the harmony, wasn't the guidance, and they were trying to make it happen. And they were going to great extents to make it happen and becoming at times very self-destructive in the process. And anytime we look at things and realize, wait a minute here, here's a self-destructive part of it, energy. And do we choose to be self-destructive, or do we choose to learn and accept what we're needing to learn and accept and move through it? If we look at it in that way and we're here to learn, grow, and progress, we're going to be fine, because I know God's going to provide us with whatever we're needing, even though, like I have one person that said to me one time, well, I want to have this house. I want to keep this house. This house is important to me. I am not letting go of it. And I saw something so much better by them letting go of it. And I explained to them that, this is what I'm seeing Spirit give me, and to think about that. And they fought and fought and fought and hang on. And they brought it down to the idea where they had to go live with a friend in their garage and set their garage up as a bedroom. And, they used everything they had to try to maintain hanging on to that house. And once they let go of it, they had another opportunity to have a wonderful home, and it worked out beautifully for them. But they would not let go. And this is where we sometimes get very strong-willed about how we think things should be, and we don't look at it as a lesson of acceptance. And if we look at it as a lesson of acceptance, we allow ourselves to receive the guidance and we step aside. I've had another person that they looked at things and they said, it isn't worth hanging on to. And they let go of it readily and easily and move forward. And they ended up in a home that's a beautiful, beautiful home, and even bigger in nation than what they had had. And it was like 6 months later, things lined right up for them and worked wonderfully. But they also had their savings, their retirement, they had everything in hand that financially they could handle doing it. So, how self destructive are we going to be by creating some of the disharmony that we live in? And it's something that we make a choice in that disharmony. We can have it harmonious, but we need to trust what we're feeling. And I believe right now that Spirit is so close to us in so many ways. and the veil between the spirit world and here is really thin. And I believe also, when people talk about God and I look at it as when I'm saying spirit, I mean God's energy, God's spirit, God's sharing, also the ordained loved ones that are coming through as guides and teachers and loved ones to help us and guide us. That's so important to recognize. I don't put a huge division. Some people will say they just pray to God. Well, I pray to God. I always do my prayer. But I know the hierarchy of what they're doing. You could term it guardian angels, you could term it guides, you could term it messengers. I've heard a lot of different ways that people believe, but I believe that as long as we're putting forth the energy in the really right way for the right reasons, we're going to have a harmonious, loving outcome. And I know right now there's a great deal of people that have been in a really fearful state of mind. And I find it very sad because the more we fear, the more we create exactly what we don't want. And if we can accept that some people are going the wrong direction and you want to reach out and turn them around and get them in the right direction, but you really can't do that because that's part of their lesson. Now, to pray for them and surround them in light, that's wonderful. But thinking that you can forcefully somehow, whether it's talking to them or pushing them in some form to get them to listen or get them to look or get them to change direction, there's times that can't be done. You plant the seeds of wisdom, guidance, and love, and you keep walking. You don't stop there and try to forcefully make the change. Let them make the change if they choose to, and to not feel like you're trying to make it happen. I've had some people at times that they'd be so convincing and they'd manipulate people into a belief system that they want them in. And then later they find out that whole belief system was false and failed. And I believe that we all have that little voice inside, that little feeling inside, that gut feeling that says, don't listen to this, follow what you're feeling. And I feel that all of us have that. And I believe that's being heightened and enhanced more and more now. And I want to say, please listen to it. It's really important. We have another question? No. Okay. Now, I was going to share something that I've experienced recently, you know, on this whole pandemic energy going on. There's different areas that people really blow things off and they're not taking any precaution of any kind. And they're, having problems in some of the cities and some of the areas. I do believe there's another wave coming of it happening more in some areas and being hotspots, let's say. I do believe we're going to come up with many serums that are going to be very helpful. And I do feel that a lot of what's coming out right now, I don't feel complete trust in because there's a lot of people behind the scenes wanting to make big money. And they may present themselves as helping people, but I'm not sure really trust all of that energy. I believe in by spring, we're going to have a couple doctors bring things out that are going to work really well and be incredibly helpful. And I can see other people of power try to hold that down or resist that happening. But I feel they're going to come out with something that's going to be incredible and help people immensely. And I want to say, follow your own gut feeling about it, because I know there's some companies now putting out all kinds of things all over the world. And trust what you feel. Go with your guidance. Don't sit back and debate things. I've already seen a few things on the news that they're talking about and how they're doing it and how they're distributing it. Follow your feeling. I wouldn't just blindly go along with what they're saying. And I also feel an energy too. Spiritually, this is a wonderful outcome that we're moving into. And we're moving into a very spiritual time. If you notice, there has been so many things in the world coming out about people that lie, manipulate, play games, narcissistic people. And we're going to see more of it surface. It's going to be on the surface. People are going to be able to see it readily and easily, where maybe in the past you wouldn't have, and now you will. And it's really coming out. And I have to say, it's a wonderful experience for people to realize who the liars are, who the game players are, and to recognize these things. And for our abilities to tap into that and know that and feel that without question. So it's going to be coming through very strong for us, and I believe it already is in many ways. Now, what I'd like to do is if you have some spiritual questions, I know next month we'll be doing this again. But if you wanted to do something now where you have a spiritual question, not a reading for yourself in a sense of saying just a reading, but if you have a question spiritually that you want to know about, similar to what we've already had tonight, if you have something like that, please feel free. Raise your hand, and Leslie will come to you and we'll have you give the question.
Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Hey,
Sorry,
how you
sorry,
doing?
sorry it's a close up. I just had rotator cuff surgery this morning, so question on receiving when you said that to have it harmonious. Does stress cause a lot of the problems with not getting the accurate readings coming in? Because it seems like it's been all over the place, of course, with everything going on.
Well, the stress that is affecting you personally is something that you can be in tune to spirit, but there's times we sit back and very quickly in our mind, we debate things a bit. And I feel that when we debate, it becomes even more confusing. And that's where we're needing to be really calm and clear with the idea that what we're there for and doing. And as we really tap into that in that form, we're going to really have the clarity. And it's something that right now, I'll just put it simply, it's been one heck of a confusion everywhere with everybody. And all of the fear that people are living in, even though you're working on clarity yourself and keeping yourself in balance, you're surrounded in the world with all this energy. And what it's doing is we need to be even more clear and more focused than what we normally would do. I found myself that reading for people, I always do the prayer. And I did the prayer, and the one person I did the prayer, and it was like, wow, the energy was so heavy. And in my mind, I did the prayer and I added to it again, and I reinforced it. And it's something that clarity was there then and everything was fine. But we need to realize there's so much confusion in the world going on. People are very frightened and they don't know what to do with the circumstances they're in or they're living in. A great deal of people are very upset about work or residency. I've had a number of people that are going to lose their residence and they couldn't pay the rents, they couldn't pay the mortgages, and all kinds of things. So there's an abundance of stress, more so than normal. And we're needing to be aware of just you work on a little doubling your clarity of I have that purity and I'm in a good space. And then I think it'll work better for you.
Okay. And also with the um, getting it or hearing it per se, is
Hmm.
there a better way to make it flow better coming in? Because like you say, it's like a hit and a miss still for me.
Excuse me. I do feel you're going to be able to make it better because the more calmness we have, because you sometimes worry about how much you're getting and that you'd like to be able to have a flow where you could just start into things and just be in a roll. And there's times you feel like it rolls a little bit and then it stops.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And I feel the moments that it's rolling, it's working well for you. But then all of a sudden, where it's like, okay, wait a minute, now what? And I feel the need for you to relax. And even if you have a quiet moment where you're just recentering yourself, that it's like, what else would come through? And allow that moment of quietness or silence to be there. And that's okay because what you're doing is focusing on the clarity. It's very easy for the conscious mind to jump in and give something else extra that may or may not be from spirit because we have a conscious mind that's like a little kid and it's just like it wants to ramble and be in control.
Now, is that like sometimes I'll be like one time I did a reading where I was like watching TV on the right side and then getting information like on the left side and then coming back and
Hmm.
reading that way. Is that something that's like more of a opening it up to where I'm not really trying to focus,
Right.
or is it something more of a way that they were just communicating at that point in time?
Well, they were communicating that way, but we need to be aware of not being diverted, because on one level you were focusing on a thought process, and another level you were focusing on what Spirit's giving you, and automatically the conscious mind shifts back and forth.
Oh, okay. So you just need to focus in on one thing and
Yeah.
try to uh,
One,
not
one,
get the mind involved.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Good
All
luck
right.
with that.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
God
God
bless you
bless
all.
you. Take care now.
You too.
Next is Denise.
Hey, Denise.
Hi,
Hi.
Greg. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good.
Enjoying being down here. They have snow up at Lloydale.
Well, I hope we don't get snow down here in Florida.
No, I
Um,
don't. I don't think so.
I have a question for you, please, regarding trance. Is it possible for someone of one gender here on the earth plane to bring through via trance someone of another gender in spirit? And if so, does the human physiology make that more challenging for spirit?
Well, I think at times some people would think that, but I really feel the clarity when you have someone in a real true trance state. I grew up with a number of people that they were trance mediums and trumpet mediums, and I experienced a lot of that. And with the real thing, meaning the medium was the real thing,
Mhm.
there was absolutely no problem with them coming through and being the opposite sex. There was no problem coming through with ages or even time spans of ages, meaning an entity coming through from, say, a few hundred years ago.
Mm, okay.
And there was no problem with that at all. It came through very clearly. I remember a circle I had set in with Dana Bailey. He was my teacher, and he had been the mayor of Newton Falls, and he was a world-known person. And he was a very interesting man. He had a wonderful ability in mediumship, and he had a wonderful ability in trance. And he had actually trained some people in trance. And this one gentleman was in trance, and the Indian that appeared and walked out, they had no legs from the knees down, and he came out and stood there, and everyone's looking at him, and then we had like 22 people in the room, and the room was not completely lit but very lit. I could say, if you had a necklace on, I could see it and tell you what it was from across the room.
Mhm.
That's how light it was. And this entity was someone that was standing there and you couldn't see through them. And he said to me, he said, I want you to know how real this really is, and this is the entity speaking to me. And he had me stand up, and he said, I want you to experience this. And he said, put your hand through me. And I put my hand through him, and on the other side of his body, they watched my hand, and I took my hand back out, and it felt like wet, cool jello.
Mm.
And this was full mediumship, full manifestation. And that was something that to me was just really amazing to actually touch it and know that it was there and how real it was.
Mhm.
And he smiled as he smiled and bowed to me, and he disappeared through a cement floor.
Ah,
And when you talk trance and you talk true trance, I mean, I hear a lot of people talk about trance, and they're not understanding of it at all. And I find that the real thing was just utterly amazing. And to look at the idea of that mattering between genders, it doesn't at all.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is Leah.
Leah. Hello, Leah.
Hi.
Eh,
I just had a quick question regarding, um, for 34 years, I've worked in service of others as a psychologist and working with people with disabilities. And when my goal was, when I had retired, was I would come down into the villages. I would be able to devote more time to developing mediumship abilities and to be of service, but in a different way
Yes.
that I had been in service before. What I've noticed with the pandemic is I had started with sitting in a group, and then what I've seen happening is it's kind of put everything on pause. And working alone, I don't feel like I have that time and space like I used to go to my groups every, week and everything. And I was wondering, do you really, I'm trying to see like how I can move forward, because there's a certain level of joy when you can work with people and help people. And I just don't feel like I'm doing that, but I feel like inside my soul wants to do those things. So I'm trying to think, are you going to have any type of groups, or with like after the pandemic, are you going to be doing any more trainings, or
I
are you?
believe, Leslie, what?
I said probably next year as well.
It's a time issue for us right now.
Uh-huh.
And going into the future, I would love to be able to have a class that we could work with almost like a meditative group
Mm-hmm.
and work with the mediumship and be able to share that. We haven't set it up yet, but I would love to do that. And I know in the future, please keep an eye on the website. And, if we're going to put it together, it'll be on the website and you could join us.
Oh.
And your ability personally, dear, is wonderful. And I feel your sincerity of helping people in the work you've already done. You've helped lots and lots and lots of people. And in the work you're going to do, I feel you'll help a lot of people. And for you to relax with the idea of having, whether it is through what we're doing right here,
Mm-hmm.
or doing a circle each week and have it on the internet if you can't do it in person, to have it on the internet where you'd be joining with a few of the people that you may have set with already. Maybe you could do it together as a group. But I would say you're going to advance in that. And the reason that you feel the way you feel right now is because it's frustrating you to look at the world, and the world is choosing not to be as harmonious, and they're not willing to learn and go with what they're really needing to do. And you understand that. And you've watched people many times, no matter how much you'd plant seeds of wisdom, guidance, and love, not necessarily did they listen.
Mm. Yeah.
And I see you having a few people, even though it's just going to be a few people. I see a little group getting together that you'll be a part of, and I could see you expanding that. And as soon as we put something together, it'll be up on the internet and people recognize it. And you certainly would be welcome to be participating in it. I would love to
So,
do that.
so internet development groups can work as successfully as being in person with the feeling of the energy in the room and the vibration. You can do that.
Yes. For example, when I read for people over Zoom, I
Uh-huh.
read for people on the phone, I read for people in person, I read for people all over the world. And I've learned to trust that energy flow. There's a gentleman I read for in India, and I've read for him for a number of years. And it's so interesting the energy flow you'll feel once you're relaxed with that and you're looking at the person, you're communicating with that person. It does connect. It's like a bridge of energy no matter where they're at. And you can
Oh.
build that bridge of energy and you can have that communicative level then. I know people that I've spoken to on the internet, and like one lady said to me at the end of the reading, she said to me, she says, "Oh my God," you're like the mouse in the corner in my house here. She says, everything is so dead on. And I knew that we had connected very deeply on what we were picking up. And that's where I feel with you, you're not used to it, and you may not have had very many people you can do that with.
Yeah, no, I've never done that. I do see courses that you can take online, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
I can't fathom it because the circles that I've sat in, I've gotten so much from the people around me
Oh, sure.
that I'm concerned about, is that real? Would that work? Can you actually develop
Well,
that way?
let me say it this way. I've been on radio and television working with people for years and years.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I'm going to be 68 in January,
Oh,
and I've been at this all my life. I gave Messages and Inspiration Stump when I was 8 years old in
yeah,
Lolydale.
yeah.
And I've worked with many TV shows, radio shows. As long as you can hear their voice, you will feel the vibration. And once you relax with that and you become more in tune to that as listening to the voice, it'll amaze you. And then when you have the ability on Zoom, for example, and I know there's other avenues of seeing people on
Mm-hmm.
the internet, but if you're looking at the person and you're listening to the person, you're going to make that shift of accepting that vibration in a little different way than in person. I would certainly prefer in person. All right. But I found it's just as good once you relax with that and you're trusting of what you're feeling. It doesn't matter where they are in the world.
Oh, okay.
And whether
Thank
it's
you.
by phone or whether it's by Zoom, I've read for people by phone before I've ever done Zoom. And I've read for people by phone for years and years. And I have clients I've read for like one lady said to me, I think it was 47 years ago, she started readings with me.
Mm.
And I've read for people over the phone for years and years, and that's just the voice vibration. And then when you have the ability to see them and you have the voice vibration also, I find it amazing.
Oh, great. Well, I look forward to hopefully you'll have a class and I can join that then.
Sure. Well, don't hesitate in seeing what you feel. If you can do Zoom with somebody that's one of the people you've been in a class with or something or a
Uh-huh.
group, try it. See if you
Okay.
can find some people that can do that and see what vibes you're feeling, because I think you'll be able to pick up on it. I really believe you're more sensitive than what you may realize.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're
Appreciate you.
welcome. God bless you. Another question?
Carol?
Hi, Carol. Hello, Carol.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for this class.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask, as mediums and healers, and you want to step it up to like the higher vibrations to go higher
Yes.
to help us with divine
Hmm.
light and energy to help us bring the messages forward. Do you have
Yeah.
any suggestions?
Why I feel the more focus we have and just calmness. Now, think of it this way: putting the intent on being in tune in that manner and going to a higher level, that's wonderful. But to realize that the higher level's already there, and all we need to do is get out of the way to allow it to happen, and to not feel consciously like we have to force things to occur. I find that on the spirit side of life, we allow things to occur. On the physical side of life, we try to force things to occur. I have an example that I've used for years, that if we're in a swimming pool and the ball's laying there in the water and we charge at it swimming, the weight carries it away. And if we just tiptoe over very gently, it's in the palm of our hand. And this is where we're needing to realize that on the spirit side, it's the acceptance and harmony, because you've set the intent. And to me, when you set the intent, you're already there. You're already in that harmony. You're already in that balance. And when we have to sit back and we're still consciously debating and trying, we're stuck in the conscious. And when we're able to step beyond the conscious and just know that it's there, it's like knowing the end result is already at hand. And if we can project that intent and thought, then it will be.
Thank you.
I hope that helps you.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I understand it.
Good. God bless you.
Richard's asking, what prayer do you use before and after readings?
Oh, the prayer that I used before a reading, I believe was the prayer I said earlier when we started. And it's something that, to me, I was given that prayer by Spirit way back years and years and years ago. And to me, it was setting the whole, let's say, package of intent as to having that harmony, letting God guide us. Uh, my grandmother always taught me, put your hand in Jesus' hand, Jesus will guide you. And I always had that trust. And my father said to me more than once, he said, I don't know how you blindly trust what you feel. And in his mind, he was a very conscious man and a very focused in a conscious way. And if I felt good with something, no matter what it was, I'd go with it. And if I felt trusting of whatever I was guided to do, I would do it. And he would just shake his head at me at times because I remember more than once he said to me, he says, all guts and no brains, because I would just do what I felt. And I would do things and trust things that maybe someone else would look at as even dangerous. But I would trust it, and the outcome was wonderful and it worked great. But I trusted it. I've done some physical things. I remember one time he got really upset with me because I rode my bicycle across the top of a wall, and the wall had to be like maybe 10, 12 inches wide. And I rode a bicycle from one end of the wall to the other end of the wall because it was curvature going out over a big drop. And it had to be like a 10-foot drop. And I rode the whole wall and came back on to level ground. And he was sitting in a lawn chair, clenching the lawn chair arms. And he just looked at me and shook his head. And he says, all guts and no brains. You can get hurt. This could happen. That could happen. And my mom was calling us in for dinner. And she said, Gene, my father's name was Gene. She said, Gene, when he feels trust with something, he does it. It's not something questioned or thought about. And this is where we need to realize if we let ourselves have that purity of guidance and we have that trust level, we're going to be fine. And it's something that I've had it in my whole life. And there's many times in my life I've trusted what I felt and worked perfectly. You have room for one more question? Marina.
Hi, Reverend. Hi, Leslie. Reverend, as far as healing, I find it very challenging. How do you help to heal somebody that's very close to you, who's like really negative? Like, how do you send healing to people that kind of attack you, and how can you still help them,
Well, think of it this way. They're creating the outcome in their negativity that is maybe not the healing you would like to see. You'd like to see them really be healthy. And they're choosing basically not to be healthy because they're choosing to be very negative. And it's something that you plant the seeds in a healing manner. And it's like seeds of life and guidance, but you let go of it then. And whatever their choice of the outcome is, the choice is. And to not feel that you can forcefully heal them or make them listen, because not going to happen. And, it talks about in the Bible, casting pearls before swine. We need to recognize here's people that have the ears to listen, the eyes to see, the mind to understand. And if they don't, and they don't want to, they're going to fight and resist it. And why are you wasting your energy trying to do that when you could give energy in other ways to other people that would be very helpful and they'd be very accepting? And it would help support their healing. And I know you love them and their family, but you have to reach a point where it's a choice they're making and to respect their choice.
and trust God they won't end up killing themselves or something, like ending up.
Well, that's a choice they're making. And you can do a little prayer for them, but I would let it go at that. And whatever they have as an outcome that they choose, they choose.
Okay.
You're not going to change the outcome. It's their choice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. God bless you. Well, we've shared an hour now, and I'm looking forward to next month. And I hope all of you have enjoyed and